Just touching 7:45 here on this Tuesday morning. Live shot, Century Plaza Hotel and Spa. The question is, what's the future for Vancouver's West End after an interesting request for expression of interest was released by the City of Vancouver? Here to comment on it, Vancouver Park Board Commissioner John Cooper and Michael Wiebe, City Councillor for the City of Vancouver. Welcome to you both. I know this information came as a bit of a surprise, but want to address a memo right off the top from Malcolm Bromley, General Manager of the Vancouver Board of Parks and Recreation, saying staff typically notify the Park Board when major project processes are made public. Unfortunately, this step was missed with the project. In the future, staff will ensure the board is made aware of any significant invitational or procurement initiatives prior to posting on the City of Vancouver and BC Bid websites. There was a meeting last night. John, start us off. What came of this meeting, given the information, and what was your reaction?
Yeah, well, thanks. Last night I put forward a motion to try and put a pause on this because I think commissioners, including myself, including the chair of the park board, and also city councillors, were unaware of this coming forward. So I thought it was time for the public to at least have more information and for commissioners to have more information. You know, we have a lot of priorities that we've already established at the park board, and this is really based on a 6-year-old West End plan, so that's 2 elections ago. I think it's time for the new board to have a reset, and that's what I was asking for.
And Michael, for your reaction when you saw, it's a very detailed report of what could be changed with the West End, with some of the waterfront parks. What did you think when you saw this?
Well, in the budget process, we did capital planning, and this was brought up and saying that there was developer funding that was going to go into parks into the West End. And so I remember it coming up and saying, this is interesting because it wasn't something we're fully working on when we were at Park Board, and we just did a 25-year strategic plan. But there are needs, and one of the things that it does talk about is connections to the West End and how we can connect the parks better with pedestrian access. However, there's a lot of plans that are still in play, Van Splash and others on the Aquatic Center, that are really exciting. But I think right now when we're going through the process, I think one of the things is that there are new elected officials and there's a lot of priorities, and we're currently going through priority workshops in Vancouver. What are those priorities and how does the public get involved?
I think that's the big part of it. I mean, hitting that, how does the public get involved? I mean, the report outlines, and just going through it, improving accessibility, a wider cycling network, updating infrastructure. You mentioned the Aquatic Center. From the people, what do you hear is the great need for the West End? It has a great identity on its own, but the need from the people of changes and updates they want to see, John.
Yeah, well, you know, we've noticed that, for instance, we're only building 1 community center every capital plan. It took us almost 12 years to build a senior center in the city, and we've got an aging population. So we have a lot of priorities, a lot of needs across the city, and quite frankly, not a lot of discussion around needs other than the Aquatic Center. They talk about in the report creating a sense of arrival when you get to English Bay. I feel pretty good when I get down there as it is, and most people are quite awed by the location and the situation. So in terms of the priorities, I'm just surprised that this one is moving, because staff, when they spend time on something like this, they're not spending time on some of the other priorities. So I think the new board should have an opportunity to reset. You know, unfortunately, last night, not all the other commissioners agreed with my perspective, so my motion failed. But I think it was still worth it, because I think it shed some light on a situation. And these are 2 of our iconic beach parks.
So what happens next, Michael, in this? I think alignment when it comes to board, council, city staff is important. But what happens next, given the information that's been released and what we could see for change in the city?
So obviously the process is going forward to look for a proponent that will be consulting on this, and that funding is coming from the amount of density that's increased in the West End. And I think something people are going to recognize is we have had a lot of density in different neighborhoods, and people are looking for the amenities. And so I think this is what we're talking about, is that we have some funding from having extra people enter neighborhoods, and what do we want to do with that funding? And there's a plan, a concession plan that's going through a park board right now. There's a plan for the community or Aquatic Center like we talked about, but then there's a road network, and how do we make it more friendly to walk around. And however, the place is fantastic. On Saturday, every inch was covered with people. We had a beautiful weekend last weekend, and so I kind of went through it to see what it was like, and it's stunning. And I think that that's something we got to recognize, is there's a natural beauty to there. I used to lifeguard Sunset Beach. It was my home base, and so Darcy and Al are the concession. If people go say hi, I love it. They make one of the best hot dogs in the city. And so I think that we need to recognize some of the beauty that's there, but there are some opportunities, and this is the opportunity when we do have construction and development in Vancouver for how can we better deliver amenities to the citizens.
Well, it sounds like a productive conversation's happening. Even some of the projections saying, what, by 2040, 18,000 more residents in the area using these venues. So we will follow it. Gentlemen, appreciate you taking the time to be here this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess one last thing. Do I have a question?
Shoot it out.
So I think when we looked at Van Splash for the Aquatic Center, I mean, we talked about outdoor spas and really making an iconic view of that center. I think that's something people need to look at is give us your voices and opinions on how amazing this place could be, because it could just, we could wow. And I think that's what we want as Vancouverites.
You hear that? Spa day in the West End? I think some people will be chiming in on that one. Listen, thank you very much for the final insight. We'll take a break. Watch this, your viral videos of the day. Up next, stay tuned.